you ready for writing time, second grade? Even in writing, we are still going to be using our detective skills to look for elements in a story that are going to help us with our writing. So remember, on Monday, we were introduced to our very first writing project in second grade. Do you remember what is the name of the writing project that we're going to start? Started with a personal narrative. Our first writing project is called a personal narrative. And what exactly is a personal narrative? Remember, it tells a story. And when it means personal, it means we are going to tell our own story, something that happened to us. So a personal narrative is our first writing project, and we are going to tell a story. In a personal narrative, we have characters. The main character is going to be you. We have a setting where the story is going to take place. And then we have a beginning, middle, and an end to the story. Just like every story we read has a beginning, middle, and an end, the story that we write will have the exact same structure. Let's take a look at our learning target for today. It says, I can identify the beginning, middle, and end in a personal narrative. In every story that we read, there's a beginning, middle, and an end. The exact same thing is going to happen when we are the author and we write that story. Today, we are going to learn about what each part of a personal narrative talks about, and we're going to practice identifying them when we read Jabari Jumps for the second time. So, to start us off in our journey of learning about beginning, middle, and end, I need you to draw a little picture for me. I need you to get out a piece of paper. You can have a couple markers if you would like. And I want you to draw exactly what you see on the screen. You see 3 circles, and then we see 6 boxes. These circles represent each part of the story. We have beginning in green, the middle in yellow, and the ending in red, just like a stoplight. So I want you to take a few minutes and draw out this picture that is going to help us talk about how our personal narrative is going to be structured. So I'll show you. This is an example of what I drew. I just had 3 circles. I colored them in. I wrote beginning, middle, and end. And then I just drew a big box. And I drew lines to where there were now 6 little boxes. So I want you to take the time to draw out this for yourself on any piece of paper that you have. When this is all set up, I want you to come on back and we're going to start filling it out. Okay? Pause. Okay, you're back. That means you have drawn this out on a piece of paper and you are ready to start talking about beginning, middle, and the end. Okay, Super Scholars. As I fill out this box, you are going to fill it out with me. So by the end, all of these will be filled up and you can use this when you start writing your own personal narrative. So let's start, of course, in the beginning. That's where we always start. The beginning of a story does something that we call introduces. The beginning of the story introduces. Introduce means to meet for the first time, to see something for the first time. If you introduced me to your dog, it would be the first time I've seen them. So in the beginning of the story, we start by introducing 3 different things, showing our reader for the first time. We introduce the event, So what is happening in the story? We introduce the characters. So who is in our story? And the setting. The setting where our story takes place. In the beginning of a personal narrative, we have to introduce all three things to set the stage for our reader. The event, the characters, and the setting. So Super Scholars, I want you to make sure you have written this in that first box. We're talking about the beginning. I want you to copy this down in the very first box. Remember, always pause me in between so you can finish. Go ahead. Okay, you now have the definition of the beginning of a story in your box. And now we're going to go to the middle. The middle of the story is where we tell most about what is happening. In the middle, we have to tell events. This is where the story continues. In the middle, we tell events in order. When we are telling a personal narrative that happened to us and it's real, you have to tell the events in order exactly as they happened. Jumping through time is going to be really confusing for a reader. So in the middle of a story, we have to tell the events in order. What happened first, next, and then. Just like the transition words we've been using. Okay, Super Scholars, I want you to go ahead, make sure you have this written in your second box, right here, and then come on back. Here you go. Okay, you are now ready to talk about the end of a story. If we're at the end, the story has to tell us, how does the event end? So the ending is, how does the story end? Does this story have a happy ending? Does it have a sad ending? You have to conclude it, tell how that time finished. For example, if you went on a roller coaster, was it a fun roller coaster? Did you enjoy yourself? Or did you end up freaked out and never went on it again? The ending tells, how does the story end? Okay, Super Scholars, you know what's up. Make sure you have this in the last box down by end. Okay, there you go. Okay, awesome job, Super Scholars. You will now have these three boxes filled out. Now, we are going to look for the beginning, middle, and end of a story when we read Jabari Jumps. But before we do that, I need you to put your piece of paper down because we're about to move our bodies. Okay, on Detective Day, I have one last this or that for you. So, if you are a detective and you were on a hunt to discover something new, would you love to find or discover a brand new planet in outer space? Or would you like to discover a brand new animal? For example, a magical unicorn. If you are a detective looking for a new clue, would you want to find a new planet or a new animal? Planet, you're going to wiggle. Animal, you're going to spin. What is your pick? I would love to find a new planet. I think that would be so cool. So I'm going to wiggle for 5 seconds. Here we go. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, I got my little silly wiggles out. And now everyone's going to sit back down. Okay, Super Scholars, it is now our time to read Jabari Jumps for the second time. As we read it, we are going to fill out the beginning, the middle, and the end of the story. It is going to correspond what we talked about. When we read the beginning, we're going to look for the event, the characters, and the setting. When we read the middle of the story, we're going to look for the action that's in order. When we read the end of the story, we're going to look for how the story ends. And when we find it with our detective skills, we will write it in the second column of our box. So, let's get reading and look for the beginning of the story. Okay, I'm going to pull it up. Da-da-da. Here we go. Okay. I'm jumping off the diving board today, Jabari told his dad. Really? Said his dad. The diving board was high and maybe a little scary, but Jabari had finished his swimming lessons and passed his swim test, and now he was ready to jump. I'm a great jumper, said Jabari, so I'm not scared at all. Jabari watched the other kids climb the long ladder. They walked all the way out to the end of the board, as big as tiny bugs. Then they stood on the edge. They spread their arms and bent their knees and sprung up, 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 and then they dove down, down, down. Splash. Looks easy, Jabari said. But when his dad squeezed his hand, Jabari squeezed back. Okay, we're going to pause because that was the beginning of the story. So let's go back to our sheet. Okay, we just read the beginning of Jabari Jumps. Now we have to write down exactly what that beginning was. So, in Jabari Jumps, it introduced the event, characters, and the setting. What's the event? What is Jabari trying to do? What's his micro moment? What's happening in this story? He is jumping off the board. So that is the event that is happening in our story. What about the characters? What characters are in the story? There's two major characters that just got introduced. We have who and who? We have Jabari, the main character, and his dad, exactly. And the setting. Where does this story take place? They just arrived at the pool. They are at the pool, of course, because they need a diving board. Okay, Super Scholars, you're now going to fill out this second box. You're going to fill out the second box for beginning. Go ahead, fill out this second box for beginning with just what we had. Here you go. Okay, we are ready to keep reading the story and find out the middle. We're going to be looking for the action, the events that happen in order. So I want you to think about, what is Jabari doing and in what order does he do it? Okay, here we go. Let's keep reading. And Jabari stood at the bottom of the ladder. He looked up. You can go before me if you want, he told the kid behind him. I need to think about what kind of special jump I'm going to do. Jabari thought and thought. Jabari started to climb, up and up. This ladder is very tall, he thought. Are you okay? Called his dad. I'm just a little tired, said Jabari. Maybe you should climb down and take a tiny rest, said his dad. A tiny rest sounded like a good idea. When he got to the bottom, Jabari remembered something. I forgot to do my stretches, he said to his dad. Stretching is very important, said his dad. I think tomorrow might be a better day for jumping, Jabari said. They looked up at the diving board together. It's okay to feel a little scared, said his dad. Sometimes if I feel a little scared, I take a deep breath and tell myself I am ready. And you know what? Sometimes it stops feeling scary and feels a little like a surprise. Jabari loved surprises. Okay, we're going to pause again. So now let's go ahead and let's write those down. So first off, in the middle action, Jabari was thinking about it. He was thinking about it. And then what did he do? He climbed up. But then he came back down and he was stretching. And finally his dad came and they did what? He started talking with his dad. So these are the events that happened in order. This was the middle part of the story. We got introduced to everything at first, and then we started seeing what was happening as the story kept happening. So now, Super Scholars, make sure you have the middle filled out, this second box. Go ahead and copy that down. Okay, we are ready to read the final part of Jabari Jumps and figure out how does the story end. Okay, let's go back to reading. Jabari took a deep breath and felt it fill his body from the ends of his hairs right down to the tips of his toes. Jabari looked up. He began to climb. Up and up and up and up until he got to the top. Jabari stood up straight. He walked all the way to the end of the board. His toes curled around the rough edge. Jabari looked out as far as he could see. He felt like he was ready. I love surprises, he whispered. He took a deep breath and spread his arms and bent his knees. Then he sprang up off the board, flying. Jabari hit the water with a splash. Down, down, down he went, and then back up. Whoosh! Jabari, you did it, said his dad. I did it, said Jabari. I'm a great jumper. And you know what? What, said his dad. Surprise double backflip is next. The end. So, Super Scholars, how did the story of Jabari Jumps just end? What happened in that last part? Jabari jumped off the board. So Jabari jumped. He did it. He reached his goal and he was able to jump off the board. Was he happy or was he sad that he was able to do that? Was it a good thing that he jumped? Yes, it was. He was happy. So in our ending, we just learned Jabari jumps and he was happy about it. You could see how excited he was. Okay, Super Scholars, So now I want you to just quickly make sure you fill in that very last square and then come on back. Okay, Super Scholars, we have now this entire beginning, middle, and end chart filled out. And all I need from you today is take a picture of your chart. I want you to take a picture exactly of what you just created, where I can see all the awesome work you did following along. So just take a picture of this so I can see that you know about beginning, middle, and end. We're going to use this skills next week when we start to plan our own story. Okay, go ahead, take a picture of your awesome work, and great job.